Trump's cope around the Epstein files is getting worse, while the files themselves get even weirder. But will MAGA Republicans actually care about any of this? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. If you wear body armor, you already know not all plates are created equal. Today's sponsor, RMA Armament, isn't some Chinese drop shipper. It's not a rebrand of some manufactured overseas armor. It's American-made armor, made by people who know what it means to put your life behind it. The founder is a Marine Corps vet and former law enforcement officer who named the company after his kids because, as we know, the whole point of body armor is to get you home safe to your family. They've been making armor for over a decade now in a 30,000 square foot facility in Iowa using American-made materials and 100% American labor. I actually picked up their XRT plate in the Sappy cut. You notice this is thinner than anything I was issued by the US military in Afghanistan and significantly lighter. But the best part is that this, despite being so much lighter, is rated against almost every mid-size cartridge, almost every full-size standard issue rifle round, and even some armor-piercing rounds. It's made of ceramic, so you're not going to have to worry about spall, and it's available in shooter's cut and Sappy. RMA has body armor from level 3 soft armor all the way up to level 4 rated plates. Bottom line, RMA is doing it right. An American company, American made, built by people who understand what it means to put your life behind your body armor. So hit the link in the description, check out the catalog and videos. They've got some sales, and see why RMA is called the King of Armor. So first, this is Trump's latest truth. Now, you have to remember, place things in context, that for the last 8 months or so, the official stance of President Trump and his administration have been, there are no Epstein files, there is no client list, they're never going to release them. Any Republican that does so hates Donald Trump. Now, we've seen a total reverse course. He says House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. He then calls it a Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics to detract from his great successes, including our victory on the Democrat shutdown. Right? Now, what's funny is that he then goes on to say, actually, guys, there's tons of files, which is crazy. That means that Trump's official stance is that the Democrats created the Epstein files and then proceeded to insert prominent Democrats like Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers into there. Now, what he is leaving out is that prominent Republicans like Steve Bannon, Peter Thiel, and, of course, Donald Trump himself are equally prominent in the Epstein files. Now, the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to, which is, of course, what he says is you should vote to release the Epstein files because I'm going to then sue and make the courts line by line decide what you're legally entitled to. This is, of course, a common cope, right, from all sorts of people. You know, when people would ask, hey, when we would interview them, they'd say, hey, are you going to keep my name private? And the truth is that when I was with the Inspector General's office, the answer was maybe. But what we would say is, we're going to give you all the privacy the law allows us, right? So we won't release your name unless we're legally required to do so, which is, of course, the same exact thing as saying, we'll release your name to everyone that's legally entitled to get it. But you notice how those statements are exactly the same. Now, of course, this is, again, pure cope. But what I love here is that he goes, I don't care. I don't care what you get. I don't even care about the Epstein files. All I do care is that Republicans get back on point, i.e. stop turning on me. The economy, affordability, inflation, which are all exactly the same thing, from the highest level in history to practically nothing. This is absolutely untrue. Inflation is at about 3%. The target inflation rate is 2%. Bringing down price for the American people, which, by the way, guys, mathematically incompatible with inflation. If inflation is up 1%, then prices are not going down. That's called deflation, right? And deflating prices are a huge economic crisis. So not true. Rebuilding our military security border. This is all the things, all the stuff he keeps talking points. Trillions of dollars in investment into America. I mean, again, this is all just like cope. Even, of course, his favorite hits, secure the border, deporting criminal and illegal aliens. men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone. I don't even know what that is, and so much more. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive, which is absolutely not true. Jeffrey Epstein was the subject of tons of conspiracy theories, and in fact, despite his numerous connections, there was such an outcry about Jeffrey Epstein and his sweetheart deal that he was charged in 2019 when he was very much alive because he died in a jail cell. So those two things are not compatible. What was he doing in jail? I mean, it's insane. This is literally like dementia level stuff. Democrats had anything that would have released it before our landslide election victory, which again is in contrast to his statement that the election was rigged. Remember, why would the Democrats, according to Trump worldview, why would the Democrats have to even campaign if they could just rig the elections to win automatically? That's what he maintained happened in 2020 when he was president. He says some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen, used by Democrats to perpetrate a hoax, the one he just said he wanted released. It's absolutely, he says it's the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on Democrats, not us. Absolutely just preposterous. What's also funny, apropos of nothing, is he's rolling out the same level of insane cope about redistricting. Now, there's actually, what's funny is that the redistricting push was because it seems to be based on electoral maps that show that Trump and Trump-era Republicans won massively in the actual presidential election. But in the most recent elections, the sort of off-year elections, that didn't appear to be the case. And so what can happen is that the Republicans are starting to feel like, hey, man, if you redistrict Indiana, you're going to make Republican districts less safe. And so what you have previously was to say, listen, we're going to give Democrat districts are going to be super Democrat and Republican districts will be super Republican. But Trump is saying, no. I want you to give each Republican district a smaller margin of advantage over Democrats, but we get more of them. And that works unless the public turns on you. Because then what you end up with is centrist Democrats, even conservative Democrats, winning previously Republican-held districts if the electoral preferences shift. And right now it seems like as long as Epstein is the story to talk about, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, the Epstein files themselves get even more insane because Epstein, it's been recently revealed, was told by his brother Mark in early 2018 to ask Steve Bannon, quote, if Putin had the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Mark also told Jeffrey that you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard, referencing the movie in which a former inmate prepares a white-collar criminal for prison. Now, the initial speculation was Trump blowing Bubba was a reference to former President Bill Clinton, who had a relationship with both Trump and Epstein. Bubba was one of Clinton's nicknames. But Mark said in 2025 that the message was a joke and that Bubba did not refer to Clinton. Bubba was a private individual who's not a public figure. And what I want to point out, guys, is that we saw this in the military. Okay, I'm going to start by saying the military is the land of off-color jokes. I'm not endorsing any of these beliefs or statements, but I'm going to explain the joke without weighing in on whether it's inappropriate. It sort of is. And the joke was essentially that if someone went to prison, they would have to deal with Bubba. And Bubba was just a generic term for a stereotypical long-term prison inmate, often described as heavyset and African-American, who was seen as the sort of apocryphal boogeyman of male-on-male prison sexual assault. Now, you may think, first off, why is joking about men getting sexually assaulted funny, even if they are in prison? Why do Americans view being sexually assaulted as just sort of a natural consequence of going to prison? All of those things are valid questions. But the point is that when somebody in the military would say, you're going to go meet Bubba, it was taken as a joking way to say, yo, dude, what you're doing is going to get you in jail, right? It's similar to the joke of federal pound me in the A prison. That's what it's oftentimes, it's a joke in the same vein. So I think that's what that's a reference to. So I don't think it's asking if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba. It may literally be photos of Trump blowing uh, a stereotypical like violent prison inmate engaging on male sexual assault, maybe implying that Trump was headed to prison, going to prison, or that if Putin had some sort of what's the word I want? Compromising material, blackmail material on Trump, forcing him to do this kind of degrading act, to subject himself to sexual assault. So I'm gonna get demonetized for this, but I think it's important to explain this boomer humor, because a lot of times people pretend not to know what things mean. Now I understand that it's very funny, the idea of Trump and a former president having some kind of weird sexual relationship, but it's probably not the case. Now, here's the thing: the real problem. Because America is still a democracy, despite being absolutely awash in mis and disinformation, the opinions of the American public do in fact matter. And according to recent polls, only 20% of all U.S. adults approved Trump's handling of the Epstein files. And among Democrats, of course, only 6% said he approved of how he handled the files, but Trump has about a 97-98% disapproval among Democrats. That's pretty much standard for all issues. But 77% of adults and 2/3 of Republicans, Trump's own voters, said the administration should release all the files with the only victims' names redacted. And of about 2,000 adults from late September, and a YouGov Yahoo News poll found the same thing. Only 44% of Republicans in that poll found that they approved Trump's constant denial and make-believe about the Epstein files. This is the only area, the only part where Trump has a majority disapproval among Republicans. It's his only Republican vulnerability. And the simple fact is that it's because conservatives who wanted to see Epstein files released because they believe it will expose the corruption and cover-ups of the deep state that protected powerful people and their misdeeds are now shocked to say, oh my gosh, you mean a billionaire New York real estate developer is also part of the powerful and elite? The answer is clearly yes. We've read the emails on this file. You can go to houseoversight.gov and read the emails yourself. You can decide for yourself. Read his emails. They're the last like 2 or 3 folders in the files. You can decide if you think Trump is part of the deep state, and certainly, I don't believe the QAnon level, like deep state, they're all in on it, but you, because clearly, but clearly, the powerful and moneyed people of the world are at war with one another, and manipulating us, the public, is just sort of a sideshow for them, right? How do we convince people for this or that? While the public, collectively, we do have power in democratic systems, there's such an art and science to manipulating public opinion that in a lot of ways, it's hard for us to even get at the truth of things. That's why I think these email leaks are so important, because they are a wholesale, unfiltered, right? They're not filtered through an op-ed. They're not a magazine editor's decision. It's just all the emails from his files. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want every single one. I think these emails are still searched. I think they're anything with the keyword Trump in it. But there's still a bunch of emails that aren't actually about Trump. They'll say things like, well, Bill Gates' donations, Trump, Steve Bannon's donations, right? But that's obviously just a verb, not the actual president. So again, I really want to see the actual, just all of his emails to understand the world and network in which they live. And it's really fascinating to watch these people talk and what their concerns are and what worries them and what they try to do. It's fascinating. But again, never underestimate the ability of the Republican spin and cope machine to deflect and deny and reframe these kind of incidents. Again, it's only a matter of time before we see evangelicals, Trump-supporting evangelical churches say, actually, guys, it's biblically okay to traffic young girls. I mean, who knows? The world getting more insane by the minute. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Hit subscribe, and thanks to today's sponsor. Cheers.